Did you know that in Barboskini and Luntik there are several deleted characters that only appeared briefly before disappearing forever? In today's video, let's uncover where they went and what really happened to them. We'll take a closer look at some of the most mysterious, forgotten, and removed characters from Barboskini. Let's start with the neighbor in Barboskini. His first and only appearance was in the episode called Kakvkino. In the story, the main characters saw a broadcast through the window on TV. They watched closely, waiting to see what would happen. But suddenly, an unknown hand reached out and switched everything off. Interestingly, this mysterious character only ever appeared once in the entire history of the series. If you look carefully at the hand, it resembles Grandpa's hand. But as we know, Grandpa lives in the attic. Then again, maybe the attic isn't his permanent home. Perhaps he actually lives in another apartment and only visits his grandchildren occasionally. Next, let's take a look at Rosa's friend. We first heard about her in the episode Keep Yourself Together. From their conversations, we learn that Rosa often compares herself with this friend. For a while, very little was known about this mysterious character. But if you look closely during a phone call, the name Sonia appears on Rosa's screen. Later, in a newer episode, we even saw this friend through Rosa's phone camera. Another interesting figure is Drushik's so-called buddy. In many episodes, this friend constantly brags and sometimes even laughs at Drushik for not having a Liaphone, a parody of an iPhone. At first, it might seem like this was Tomoka. But Tomoka never acted that way, which suggests that this is an entirely different character, though there's very little information about him. Now, let's remember the robot named Robik. Robik could solve any problem and even sing 5 different songs. His first appearance was in the episode Romance. But after that, there was never a single mention of him again. Perhaps no one needed him anymore. After all, Robik was created specifically for Rosa. But by the end of the episode, Rosa chose Tomoka instead. Gina must have noticed this, and maybe that's why he disassembled the robot afterward. And then there's Agnesa Leopoldovna. This character is perhaps the most intriguing because she strongly resembles the Barboskini family. According to what we know, she is a teacher of Russian and mathematics. But could she actually be their mom? Let's examine the evidence. First, their father doesn't seem very interested in their grades, maybe because he already knows them from Agnesa. And in the episode Alina's Flower, he even mentions a certain report, possibly a school report. But if Agnesa isn't their mom, maybe she's just of the same breed. To this day, there's no clear answer. Now let's talk about the extended Barboskini family, specifically Aunt Polya and Uncle Kolya. Very little is known about them, except that they are polite, strict, and especially fond of Liza. This is obvious from the family's reaction. When they found out they were going to visit Aunt Polya and Uncle Kolya, everyone was upset except for Liza, who was thrilled. Kolya Spitz is another ambiguous character who seemed like he was supposed to play a role in the series, but was either removed or postponed. His first appearance was in The Most Honest City. By the end of the episode, it turned out that he was just an imaginary character. But in another episode, we saw a face that looked a lot like him, suggesting that he really does exist in the Barboskini universe. Maybe one day he'll appear again in a future episode. Now for the most mysterious ones, the celebrity crushes. First, the character known as Brad Pitbull. His first appearance was in Who's Prettier. After that, he vanished completely, giving the impression that he was lost forever. But in the full-length Barboskini movie, he was mentioned again. According to the story, he grew up and is now actively searching for his soulmate. Liza also had another idol, Jana Kiska. Unlike Brad Pitbull, she was never mentioned again in later episodes. Maybe she simply ended her career, and everyone forgot about her. Speaking of Liza's idols, let's not forget Justin Bobek. In newer episodes, it seemed he became much more popular than Jana Kiska, which may be why nobody remembered her anymore. Justin eventually left Dogberg since, as the story says, he was a foreigner. Grandpa Barboskini once mentioned a very smart friend named Professor Samay. Interestingly, he may have actually appeared in the episode Double Trouble. Among all the professors shown on screen, there was a bulldog and perhaps this was him. And now let's move on to the mysterious side of things. As we know, Gina has always been fascinated by extraterrestrial life. In the episode Contact, we notice something unusual on the TV screen, a real alien. But the little one thinks it's just a cartoon. Strange, right? Well, it gets even stranger, because right after that, for just a moment, a ghost appears. On one hand, this looks like a paranormal event. But look at the main character's reaction. Instead of fear, they laugh. Maybe this means they had already seen this ghost before and were used to it. Remember in Luntik when the characters mentioned the scary pike-crook? According to the pond residents, she's terrifying and everyone fears her. But why have we never actually seen this character on screen? Could it really be that through all these episodes, she never appeared? In fact, the series has many unshown characters who were mentioned but never appeared for unknown reasons. Let's start with the pike-crook. The first time we heard about her was in the episode Moon Guest. Piskor Ivanovich warns Luntik not to make loud noises, otherwise the pike-crook will wake up. At first, this seems like just a children's tale. But later, in the episode What's in the Pond, Rakchik and Bryak mention her again, recalling an encounter with a toothy pike. Unfortunately, we never got the full story. In that same episode, we see Rak is terrified of every noise in the water, clearly hinting that she's afraid of this pike-crook. In the very first episodes, we also meet the beetle plungers, quick and agile insects. But even they seem to fear something. So why wasn't this pike ever shown? Maybe she was always there, hiding in the depths, and we just didn't notice. Who knows? Maybe one day she'll finally appear. In the third episode, The Little House, when the main characters were searching for a new home for Luntik, we briefly saw some shells that seemed to house crawfish. But in later episodes, we only ever meet one Czechbryak. So where did the rest go? Could the pike-crook be behind this too? We also saw a worm, who seems to be Corny's best friend. In the episode Record Breaker, the characters help carry heavy sacks of roots. When asked how Corny can lift so much weight, he replies that his friend can easily lift 5 times as much. In another episode, someone even calls Corny on the phone, asking about root supplies. All signs suggest that this worm is indeed Corny's friend. But for some reason, he was never shown again. Another missing figure is Kuzya's mother. In the episode Kuzya's Dream, he mentions her, but we never see her. However, in another episode, it's explained that Kuzya's mother and relatives live in another country. Perhaps Kuzya could have left too, but he didn't want to abandon his friends, especially since Grandma Kila and Uncle Sure look after him. There's also a strange caterpillar shown in the very first episodes who looks a lot like Wupsin and Pupsin. Could this have been an early design of them? Or maybe this caterpillar was meant to be a friend to the duo. But since there were some differences, the creators instead introduced Wupsin and Pupsin as brothers. Now let's discuss one of the most mysterious figures, Shnyuk's grandmother. In the episode Thunderstorm, Shnuk tells a story about how his grandmother once saved him. Apparently, she lived with him in the willow tree. But why did she leave? Their relationship seemed strong. Perhaps she left out of love, or maybe the meadow residents feared her. After all, in the early episodes, even Shnuk himself scared many. Another curious mention is the grandmother ant. Sadly, we know almost nothing about her, except that she was skilled at embroidery. And here's something you probably never guessed. Long ago, the grandfather from Three Cats supposedly sailed the seas in search of treasure. If you pay attention, Captain Anti-Ban appears out of nowhere and then suddenly vanishes. Today, let's talk about the past of some of these characters and uncover where the missing ones went. But before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to catch more new content. In the second episode movie Masterpiece, the Three Cats decide to make a film. Notice how they immediately run to their father for help, even though their mom was nearby. It makes you think, was their dad once an actor? Look carefully, he explains every detail of filmmaking with ease, almost like a professional. It's possible that long ago, he acted in films together with his brother Hex. But for some reason, he ended his career, probably because filming took him away from home too often. That's why he left that profession behind. And yes, you might not believe it, but the clues are all there. Long ago, the Three Cats' grandfather was actually a rescuer. In the episode Kittens to the Rescue, he recalls how he worked with a partner who, according to him, still works in rescue missions today. It's unclear exactly why Grandpa retired, but from what we know, it was simply because he grew old. Later, in the episode Diving, his dialogue is full of nautical expressions, which suggests that after being a rescuer, he became a sailor. After all, he even has his own ship. In this same episode, sharp-eyed viewers noticed something interesting in the background, a map with a red path drawn across it. Could Grandpa have been using this map to search for treasure? Also in Rescuers, Grandpa remembers saving a drowning cat when he was very young. But here's the twist. The very same cat from his memory occasionally appears in later episodes. For example, in Watermelon Day, she's seen sitting in the stands. So how is it that Grandpa has aged so much, but she looks just as young? This strongly hints at some kind of time travel or timeline split. Some might argue it's just another cat who looks the same, a coincidence. But there's one detail that makes this harder to dismiss. Remember the younger sibling of the three cats named Bagel, Bublik? In Watermelon Day, an adult version of Bagel appears in the audience. It seems that something strange with time really did happen that day. Now let's talk about another mysterious character, Bowtie Bantik. Honestly, before making this video, I didn't know much about him. But looking back at the early episodes, whenever the three cats played with their friends, everyone was there, except Bantik. At first, I thought maybe I just didn't notice him. But look at the episode Mail Delivery. The kittens deliver packages to all their friends, yet Bantik isn't on the list. Strange, right? You could brush it off as coincidence, but in New Year's episode, everyone shows up to celebrate, except Bantik again. Across many episodes, the kittens never play with him, and then eventually he just vanished. For a long time, it was like he fell out of the sky and disappeared. But not forever. In the final episode of Season 3, Bantik and his parents are finally shown. And take a good look at them. Have you ever seen his family before? They are without a doubt one of the most mysterious families in Katopolis. And Bantik isn't the only missing character. In the episode Overseas Guests, a kitten named Modi and her father arrive to visit. But after that episode, they never appear again. Most likely, this isn't tied to anything supernatural, it's just that they live very far away. And that's all for today. See you next time. Bye everyone.